Hi, it's a bit late. I haven't posted anything lately, but welcome to Owl Healing. This is Maria. I'm going to interview an amazing person that has been a part of my healing journey. Her name is Lynda. Say hi, Lynda.
Hi.
So, Lynda and I actually met through an amazing person. He's a part of my life as well. His
Mhm.
name is Garrett, an amazing healer, highly recommended as well. Hopefully I could get him to be a part of the podcast at some point. Um, but Lynda and I think we were introduced in that group. And then eventually we warmed up to each other.
Yeah,
um,
it wasn't right off the bat, was it?
yeah, no, it
There was a little
wasn't.
bit, I think we were,
It happens. Where energies are aligning, perhaps the energy is still not there yet, and then we need to just kind of come together when it's the right time. What it's important is to not to force it, right? That's like super spiritual. Don't force anything. If it's meant for you, it will be for you. If it's not meant for you, don't give up. It might not be the right time. And I think our relationship, it started like that when we were different energies. We were in different phases of our growth. And then we eventually caught up to each other. So that was beautiful. Um, but I would love to know about you. What do you do? And I've worked with you, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. But I want to know from your mouth and your words, what is it that you do?
well, from my heart. So I'm going to say I identify as she, her, hers,
Mhm.
because it's very important for me to normalize that conversation. I'm an intuitive psychic medium.
Mhm.
And my passion is to really guide others back to themselves and their own power. Because I truly believe that I'm just a conduit and that I'm not ever going to heal you. I'm just going to guide you back to yourself so you can have the tools to heal yourself and to really dig deep into that power that's innately yours already. So,
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying, of course. In the beginning of my journey as healer, I always considered myself, I'm going to heal you. I had no idea. As I started growing up spiritually, I realized nobody needs healing. We just going through remembrance. We are helping each other remember. That's how I see it. But what you're saying is very similar, where it's like you don't need help healing it, or
right.
you don't need healing, where I'm just gonna guide you to take your power and heal yourself, basically. Is
Right.
is is that right? Okay.
Exactly. So, I mean, I really believe that we're kind of taught in society that we have to fix people and that they're
Hmm.
broken. And I just
Right.
nobody's broken.
Hmm.
Nobody needs to be fixed. They're on a
Right.
journey of growth,
Hmm.
and that we're all here to, like Ram Dass says, we're all here to walk each other home,
Right.
and whatever that might look
Perfect.
like, right?
Yes, I love that.
So that absolutely spoke to me when I first read that and kind of like did a little bit of research on his life. Um, and that really just resonated with me. Once I learned that too, Maria, was the fact that I couldn't fix other people and that I couldn't help them. So I was always thinking, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I know I love to help people. But in
Hmm.
within that, I had this idea of as that I was going to fix people, make it better for people.
Yeah.
And I was taking on a responsibility that wasn't mine.
Yep.
And it took me a long time to realize that not going to help or fix people in that fashion. I can lead by example by doing on my own journey, my own work, which I'm always going to continue doing
Hmm.
alongside the people that I guide. and that I'm going to share the tools that have worked for me, and
Mm-hmm.
people can take what resonates and leave the rest. I don't
Yep.
expect people to agree with me. I don't
Mm-hmm.
expect them to see things the way I do, but if they can take bits and pieces that help them on their journey, then that's what we do. So
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. But I think a lot of light workers, healers, whatever title you want to use for yourself, I think a lot of us start with, we're here to help fix people. And it really takes inward healing of ourselves to be able to come up with the truth, which is we're actually perfect the way we are. We're brilliant, we're whole, we're complete. We just forgot it. We forgot about it. And it's great. So how do you help people? What tools do you use? What is your specialty?
Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm certified in, and then I'll tell you what I do with that. So I'm certified in Uzui Reiki as a Reiki master. I'm also a Kundalini Reiki master as well. I am a radical guide DNA activation practitioner, and I'm also an integration specialist. What that means is that I guide others through the shadow work process in order for them to obtain those tools so they can do it for themselves. So that's pretty much what I do.
So how does Reiki, being a Reiki master, being a Kundalini master, energy master, how does that help you with your work? Like, how do you incorporate Reiki with DNA activation, with an integration?
Well,
What is the arts that you create?
Well, I would say that Reiki was a gateway for me, which is a lot of people, a lot of mystics. I consider myself a mystic. That's how I like to identify.
Okay.
And I feel that it's a gateway for me. And it helped me learn about energy. It helped me understand my abilities, and it helped me do a lot of inner work. So for first and foremost, that helped me. It's like I had to guide myself before I could guide other people in the work.
Mm-hmm.
So with my work, it helps me understand what my clairs are. So we've talked about clairs. Those are our abilities: claircognizant, clair knowing, clairsentient, clair feeling, claircognizant, clear seeing, and clair audience, clear hearing. And there's a few more in there as well. But it helped me understand those and to really what I consider harnessing them, because I really identified as an empathic or an empath. But now in my journey, I've learned that everybody is empathic.
Right.
It's whether you choose to tap into it or not. And
Yeah.
so what I understood my empathy to be was actually my clairsentience, was my clear feeling.
Yeah.
So it was like a precursor to understanding my abilities.
Perfect.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so the key thing that I'm listening and hearing is the Reiki, the energy, not only taught you about yourself, right? You have to learn who you are first. It also teaches you, because I'm a Reiki master in both Isui and Kundalini as well. It teaches us about intention, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's big, because I didn't know that before Reiki. It wasn't something I was familiar with. But that's what I really, really appreciated about learning Reiki energy. And I know that's not for everyone, but that's something that helped me as well.
Mm-hmm.
So as before we go into DNA activation, because I don't know if everybody knows what that is, I would really like for you to start with a quick description of what that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do a simple, quick description. I did write it down just so I wouldn't forget little bits and pieces. So this
Of
is kind
course.
of how I like to explain it very simply.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spiritual DNA strands that are connected to our soul.
Mm-hmm.
And these strands are a life force of our full energy body. This process really activates the strands by repairing and removing the barriers. I call them barriers. We typically call them tags and seals, but the best way to identify it is barriers, and clear those that no longer serve us. A lot of these barriers end up being things that stop us from doing the things that we should be doing here on earth in this lifetime, right?
Could you give me an example of what a barrier would look like in a person's life?
Um, a barrier could be not having enough clarity.
Okay.
So they're not able to see a situation clearly,
Mm-hmm.
and that prevents them from learning more and growing more. So they just kind
Mm-hmm.
of feel like they're spinning their wheels and that they're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it probably feels that's how it felt for me anyway.
Yep.
And I can like kind of see, it's like I can kind of see around the corner, but I can't like get around the corner. Like
Mm-hmm.
something's stopping me.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I think I would describe it.
Okay. That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And through DNA activation, so a lot of people there's different types of DNA activation. The one that I do is radical guide. So it is through the spirit of Mary Magdalene that
Mm-hmm.
guides us through this process. So she's a huge part of this healing process.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we differ from other types of DNA activations.
It's so interesting that you say that, because first off, I do want to say that you've been my person to go to for energy healing and DNA activation. But I didn't really know how to ask those questions when I first started DNA activation. I just knew it was the right thing for me. I was just called to do it with you. And before we started doing the DNA activation, all of a sudden I was interested in Mary Magdalene. So it makes
That's how she rolls,
perfect
I'm telling you.
sense. Because before we did the DNA activation, and you're going to go through a little bit more of talking about it, and I hate to interrupt you, but I want to get this out. I never, in Christianity, because I grew up in that type of environment, Mary Magdalene was the prostitute. That's what she was considered. She wasn't considered someone that was enlightened, someone beautiful, someone, worth it. I don't know why I'm using these words, but I'm going to go with it. And I'm getting emotional all of a sudden. But what's your perspective on Mary Magdalene? If she's helping you within your work, what is your perspective of Mary Magdalene? Because I want that to be out there as well as you continue, because you brought up that instead of using other guides, you use Mary Magdalene as your help, as your guide, basically.
Yeah. Well, first of all, like Mary Magdalene, through a channeled situation, developed this process that we do. And that's why I say Mary Magdalene guides me, because she developed this process through her spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that my perspective on her up to now is that she wants to empower women.
Mm-hmm.
She came from a time where that was not so. That's
Right.
why she was considered a prostitute.
Mm-hmm.
But she was actually extremely important in the process of her and Jesus and his travels and his story and,
Mm-hmm.
and what he did for us,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And because he didn't do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
She definitely had a huge part in that, and that could be a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I want to make sure people out there listening, I want them to have a fair and balance idea or perspective on who Mary Magdalene is. There are a lot of stories out there of who she is. But when I first started looking into it, when I started getting drawn to doing DNA activation with you, she started coming to me, and I fell in love with her completely and utterly. Her power of wanting to help came through so much, of love, unconditional love, of resilience, of not giving up on us. I don't even know if that makes sense, but that's what I got. And I think if someone is drawn to you, definitely do your own research about Mary Magdalene in her mission in life, or what she really, really offered in the world when she did walk the steps that we are walking now.
Right. And I think it's important to say that look beyond the religious
Right. I agree.
explanations as to who Mary Magdalene was.
Yeah.
I don't resonate with that.
Of course.
Because I feel her, I know her, I've worked with her. Her spirit, I understand that that's not who she was. And she, like I said, she was an extremely important part of how things transpired.
And I agree completely.
Yes. Right. So, and one of the most amazing things I think about her is personally is that, like you said, like she walked where we're walking. And as women in our society, if we deviate from what society expects from us, then we're considered, like she was considered a prostitute. We are considered not worthy. We're considered not valuable.
Yes.
And so
it's hitting me right here.
Yes, in this mystic world of ours, this, all the abilities that we have, especially, and I don't want to discount the men, because there's so many men out there that are, in touch and balance with their masculine and feminine and all of that. I don't want to discount them whatsoever in their journey. But women especially, I don't know, it's like she paved the way for us to say, okay, we can do this. It doesn't matter how many people degrade us, or how many people say horrible things about us, or how many people don't agree with us. If we know who we are, and
that's key.
We trust and believe in ourselves, and know that we're worthy, and we always have been worthy, and we stand in that power. I can only hope to follow her in her footsteps.
Yes, for sure. That's a blessing and honor and so many other words. But please, I know that I kind of threw us in for a loop, but let's get back to it. We were talking a little bit about radical DNA activation, and you had just finished talking about Mary Magdalene being your guide through it. And that's how you guys are different. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's who I connect to in this process. So within the process, we really, it's different for everybody. So it's not going to be the same. But like I want to mention too, is that if you feel a pull to it, then it's meant for you. Now, you could be fearful of that pull. You could be scared of that pull. You could feel like that you create barriers as humans, because we do, for not doing it, but you still feel that draw and pull, then it's for you. And if you don't, that's okay too, and I feel that I want to really talk from my heart when it comes to DNA activation. Like I said, it's different for everybody. There are some basic things that we do in addition to removing the tags and seals from the spiritual DNA. We get the channeled messages. We could have other guides that show up. Those are sometimes either identified or not identified. It all depends on, who wants to be part of that. We also learn, we we balance your chakras. I'm like losing my train of thought.
No, it's
What I think
okay.
what I think I want to do is, like I said, it's different for everybody. There's definitely information that you can read up on the actual specifics of what we do. What I really want to talk about is like from my heart, why it's so important for me to do this work,
Hmm.
though it is considered outside the box,
Yeah.
and a lot of people may not understand it, so they may not resonate with it. I have I've always been oppositional defiant in my life, so I've been very skeptical of things, right? Even of myself and my abilities. And when I came across this, I knew, like I could feel it. Like I knew I was supposed to do it, but I sat on it for a while and I didn't listen to my intuition, right? I didn't trust
So
myself yet.
when you say you sat on it, does that mean, because I'm a very literal person, English is a second language, it's my second language. So I am like that guy from, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the Big Bang Theory, the guy Shelton.
Oh yeah.
You have to be, I can't understand sarcasm whatsoever. You have to be completely, I take everything so literal. When you say you sat on it, does that mean that the class was offered and you didn't do anything to sign up for it?
Right.
Okay, okay. Sorry.
So what ended up coming up for me was the money story. Okay, so
Yeah.
this process does have a price tag on it, but
Oh yeah.
because of the amount of energy and work and prep and all the things that you get from
Yeah.
it,
Mm-hmm.
it definitely, you get value out of it.
Yeah.
But I had a money story, which
Yeah.
I still continue to work on. So
Mm-hmm.
my money story, my thought was, well, I can't afford it, so I'm not going to do it. Even though I was totally drawn to it,
Yeah.
knew that it was something I needed to do, I concocted this story about how I
Yeah.
couldn't do it out of
Mm-hmm.
fear.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I realized that it's almost like I felt like I was in this room and I walked in this room, and the only way to get out of the room was to open the door forward, because there's
Mm-hmm.
no door in the back anymore.
Right.
Like you literally could not go backwards. It
Yeah.
just, in every fiber of your being, you knew that you could not go backwards and
Mm-hmm.
go pretend like you didn't know what you knew,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You can't escape. Yeah.
So I can't go back to, well,
Yeah.
and a lot of people kind of equate it to like the Matrix, the movie The Matrix, which is
Mm-hmm.
it's actually very similar. Like, you can't go back to not knowing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to open the door. And if I was going to open the door, I was going to have to get over my money story. I was going to
Mm-hmm.
have to pay for the services,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for the work,
Mm-hmm.
and move forward. And so I really trusted
Mm-hmm.
the two women, and these two women are the ones that developed the radical guide DNA activation. I want to shout
Mm-hmm.
out the Woo Collective, Shakisha
Mm-hmm.
Reynolds and Lorene Malley, are
Mm-hmm.
amazing mentors, and
Mm-hmm.
they've been invaluable in my journey. And so I really
Mm-hmm.
want to shout out to them as well, because this is something that they brought to many of us,
Mm-hmm.
and we are bringing it to many more people as well. So now I totally lost my train of thought.
I don't
So
know, but you said their names and you said the Woo Collective, and all of a sudden I'm getting all sorts of like tingly feelings. I think there's definitely some appreciation from someone on the other side to them. So obviously I
yeah,
don't know who they are. Um, but I think the work, it is profound, obviously. Um, I walked, or I also, you started my DNA activation. Um, so I could definitely say that it was an intense experience. But before I go into my experience about it, because I do want to talk about my experience with the DNA activation and also the energy work that you did for me, and how that helped me quite a bit. I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about how important, in my perspective, about how important to find your soul tribe, those people that are going to bring in loving energy, people that are going to mentor you, people that are going to help you through this journey, and how important it is for some more modalities to get you off this roller coaster that humans tend to put ourselves into. And I think that what you do is very helpful and it helped me. So I'm going to try to put you back on track with what you were saying. I think you talked a little bit about what it is. And I love that you talked a little bit about who works with you, and that's Mary Magdalene. You talk a little bit about the process of removing seals and tags or barriers. What I know that you did for me, the DNA activation of 1 to 24 strands, and then 24 to 48 strands. Can you talk to us a little bit about the difference about those two
The
sessions?
difference, yeah. Typically, most of the work, the bulk work, is going to be done in 1 through 24 activation, and we get a lot of information. Like you can, on your report that you received, you get a lot of information through that. And I would say that before you go to 48, I personally, as a practitioner, like to give an integration period in between 24 and then the next 24. Not all practitioners follow that, and that's okay, because we get intuitive information based on each individual. There are some individuals that would do just fine without an integration period, and then there are some individuals that really need that time to integrate. So that's always completely different depending on the person.
Okay. And then with the 1 through 24, do you have different seals to remove than the 1 through 48? Or do you remove all of the seals starting 1 through 24 session?
Most of the seals are removed for 1 through 24, but there could be some more in 48. It all depends on the individual.
Okay, very good. So I could definitely say that when I wanted to touch on her money story a little bit, because when I started my journey, every class I wanted to take, everything that I wanted to do, I would talk myself out of it because of the money story. And working with you, I am also a Reiki energy person, and I understand how much energy you put on to the work. And it's not only energy, it feels like we're grouping together my guides and your guides, starting committees, communication committees. It's like a host show.
Yeah.
To work together for, in my mind, and this is the religious background. In my mind is we're uniting to pray. And you could say it in a different way. I would love for you to say it in your way. We're uniting to pray for one another as you heal parts of me that I'm refusing to let go. And I think that's how I see energy work anyway. It's helping push away the trash that is ready to leave. When you do energy work, there are some things that we are not ready to let go of, and we, no matter how much you stay in that area or how much intention you have, sometimes it's not time. But the rest of the stuff, it's time to be flushed out. And what I noticed with your work and your energy, I felt it. Most of our work has been remote, because you live somewhere where I live completely different. It's pretty far away. But because I'm really sensitive to energy, I felt it completely. The information that your report provides for the energy healing, it was spot on. Everything that I had been experiencing, everything that I've been working on spiritually, every shadow that you brought up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. So when I received energy work from you, it validated all of the work that I had been doing, all the work that I needed to get done, and everything that I was hoping for. It was just past, present, and future. It was beautiful. It was spot on, and which I appreciate that. And like I said from the beginning, when I started talking about you need to find your soul tribe, because I have 3 energy healers in my life, 4 now. I have 4 energy healers that I go to depending on what my guidance system is telling me, reach out. So one of my energy healing is Garrett, and he's very ET for me, ET energy, very cosmic, star seed energy. And he helped me a lot in a lot of ways. You, my sister, are very witchy energy, very earthy energy, very loving energy. And you were my witch sister, even though when people would tell me you're a witch, I would get offended. Like, how dare you call me a witch? Because of course that word had been demonized for so long. And I have another sister that is very Egyptian type of energy work. And all 3 of you, now the 4th one that I just met, and he is more Cosmo as well, but it's beyond what Garrett did before. And everybody had your special sauce that completed my ancient, complicated crystal of a soul. And it touched parts of me that helped me to let go. And I appreciate you and your work, because you have been vital for my journey. And I love you so much for it. When I did the first 24 DNA activation, radical DNA activation, it was through the period of COVID. I think it was 2020, and it was like the later part of 2020. I had been drawn to it. And of course, the price is pricey, but it's freaking worth it. It is absolutely worth it. I almost talked myself out of it a couple times, but I said, no, I'm being drawn to do it. And of course, back then I didn't even realize that you work with Mary Magdalene, because Mary Magdalene was introducing herself to me. In her word was coming up a lot. I loved her. Like, I don't know, there's just some moments of, I just love that woman. And I didn't even know you were working with her. So I went to the bathroom a lot, like, and that's one of the symptoms. That's how I call energetic system that's clearing. That's a clearing symptom. My throat was burning. I was feverish. And no, people, I did not have COVID. I actually got tested just to be sure. And my dreams were intense. I am very sensitive to energy, and I understand how it works. Energy work flushes out trash that no longer serves the highest and greatest good. Things that beliefs and all this stuff that no longer serve you. And I definitely felt every moment of it throughout the session 1 through 24. After you were done with that session, my guys are like, nope, you're going to wait a year until you have the second session because you need to integrate. And I was in that spiritual phase of I want more. I could do it.
Oh, patience,
could do it.
patience. Yep.
Oh yeah,
Hard.
I could do this. I could do this. I want this. Like it's a race. To definitely listen to your guidance system. And of course, Lynda, you definitely tune into the people and you could recommend, you know, it's not time for the 48. Give yourself some time. But it's important when you walk into any mystic or practitioner that you have to really listen to your heart and listen to yourself and your guidance system. Don't walk into someone, even like learn to feel what's right and what's wrong. Mm-hmm. And you felt right from the moment we started talking and connecting. And when you did the 48, there wasn't a whole lot of letting go like I did for the first 1 through 24. It was more the battlefield of the mind.
Yes.
That's when I had to face all of my shadows. And I have to say that even yesterday, I had an intense session and it was beautiful. Shadow work, it threw me into you freaking have to do shadow work. You have to do it. And I think a couple of days ago, I reached out. I'm going to do the mentoring as well because I am judging my shadow when it comes up and I'm not letting it come up. But that evening, something happened that evening that I got home and bam, I couldn't run away from it. And all the shadows that I had been suppressing, all of the aspects that I've been hiding from were staring at me and I had to face them because that's what you do, right? You have to face your shadows. Oh, martyr. That hurts. Self-righteousness. Oh my God, that's yucky. I mean, you name it. Some of that stuff came up and it's uncomfortable to see that part of you, especially when it's considered wrong, when it's considered bad, when it's considered, those are the phrases that come up: wrong, bad, not normal, right? Even going into the field of mystic, because I've never really considered myself a mystic, but I know I'm something. I don't even know yet what's happening here, but it has been so demonized that it would make anybody not want to see that part of themselves. Right. That listen to that inner guidance. But not only did you do that for me, you did more. So not only did she actually had an event called the Lions Gate event. It was DNA activation. This just passed 8/8/2001. And it was magical. It was perfect. You also helped my husband and I with our, what do you call it? Renewing our vows. Yes, you helped us renew our vows. So you're also would it be wrong for me to say priestess of that sort, where you unite people together? Or how would you consider, what title would you give yourself? I know titles don't really mean anything, but what title would you give yourself? Because I have to say that when you initiate, is that how you say initiated, or initiated our vows with my husband and I, it was absolutely spot on, perfect, magical. I could feel the energy of it. And there was a lot of trash with it as well that we needed to release. And it was absolutely perfect, because we actually got married on 8/8 to 2018. And you renewed our vows on 8/8/2021, because we've been going through growth, changes, and it's so easy to hold on to resentment, judgment, and all this other stuff. But it was absolutely magical. Can you talk to us a little bit about, like I said, the title that would you give yourself and your process? And that's stepping into sacred unity, which is amazing.
Okay. So I want to go back, because there's three things you mentioned about connecting with yourself. I just want to briefly say, when a lot of times people don't even know how to connect with themselves. They don't even know the first step, or they consider meditation as, I have to sit and be quiet. So I have to shut my mind off, right?
Mhm.
And I don't, in my journey, I've learned that that's not necessarily how you connect with yourself. So I think it's important for everyone to try to figure out, find somebody that you resonate with, and they may be able to help you learn how to connect with yourself. I'm developing a little mini course that actually touches on all that too. So there's a lot that goes on there about how the different ways that we can kind of connect with ourselves. So I think that's really important to say, is
Mhm.
that in order for you to listen to your gut and listen to your heart, you need to know how to listen
Mhm.
and know what tools work for you. And there's trust and boundaries, and there's so much going on there. So definitely do your homework on that. The
Mhm.
second one is that shadow work. Shadow work is one of the key ingredients to growth, as a human being. We cannot move forward. We cannot learn to manifest the desires that we want when we have shadows that are buried, that we're not willing to look at. So I agree with you that shadow work is like super important in order to move forward. Otherwise, you're just going to keep spinning your wheels and not going anywhere, because those things are going to be buried and not acknowledged.
Mhm.
So, and with that, I should say DNA activation kind of helps bring, like you said, brings
Oh
those
yeah,
shadows to the
it
surface.
flushed me, and I'm just like, oh my God, you're gonna
Right.
make me do this now? What?
Right. And it's work that's, you have to meet halfway. So
Yeah.
you do the DNA activation, that stuff comes to the surface, and then it's your responsibility to take it and figure out how you're gonna deal with it.
Right.
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 So I do recommend, if you do the your DNA activation, the 24 and the 48, I do recommend to use also her service of integration, because if you're not comfortable or used to doing shadow work, it is better for you to be with someone that could hold your hand through it and not judge you for any of the shadows that come up. Because I'm telling you right now, people like Lynda and myself, we don't judge shadows. We don't judge other people's shadows, because you should see ours. But I do recommend, if you're not comfortable with shadow work, because it could, being somebody highly sensitive, it could feel very dense. It could feel very toxic. There's a lot of self-care involved with that as well. And I'm sure that, you could touch on a little bit of that. You don't have to say too much, but I would definitely recommend her integration course. I don't know if you would consider it a course, class,
It
or
is it's a 7-week program. where I teach you what the steps are in shadow work. And then I hold space, and there are certain activities that we would do to help bring forth those shadows, for you to acknowledge them, for you to hold them, embrace them, and then learn what it means to integrate and what that looks like.
Okay.
Because it's a whole process. It's not a one and done situation. It
Right.
is something that you will use for the rest of your life, because we all
Yes.
have egos, and our
Mhm.
egos love to bring up the shadows that we're attached to,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so it's just learning the tools that you need in the process, so
Mhm.
you can go and do it on your own. I don't
Yes.
want anybody to be dependent on me in any way,
Right.
shape, or form. I
No.
want them to
Mhm.
know what their power is, and to know that they have the ability. Everything they need is within themselves.
Right. I
Sometimes we just need some help and some nudges and some tools, and
right.
have a different perspective in order to
Yeah.
move forward.
Right. Um, so within shadow work, it is crucial to let yourself feel instead of spiritually bypassing.
Oh, yes, because we
I needed
spiritually
to bring
bypass
that up.
ourselves.
Yeah, I needed to bring that up because it's super important. I think a lot of people with positive toxicity have a tendency to spiritually bypass their work, their shadows, or logically bypass, like spiritually bypass with their logic mind and say, okay,
Yes.
I see it. All right, I'm going to keep an eye on it. No.
One of my examples that I love to do is like, okay, um, this bad thing happened to me, right? And then somebody would come along, or I say to myself, well, it wasn't as bad as this person and this person, so therefore I just need to be positive and get over it and move on. That would be an example of spiritually bypassing, whether it be somebody else or you actually saying it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So,
My spiritual bypass way, I have to be completely honest and open because that's who I am. I'm a Course in Miracles student. That is my jam. That is my path. And in the Course in Miracles, they teach you that this world is not real, it's just a dream, which it's true and to some extent, but the things that happen to you, our energy, our emotional body becomes wounded when you don't know that this is a dream. So the child version of myself has wounds. I'm going to start recording. Hi, we got disconnected. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I think we were touching on a subject that was meant for us to talk about a little bit. Hopefully this got on the other part of the recording, but we were talking about spiritual bypass, and that's a big, I don't even know how to call it, but it's a pitfall. Is that how you say it?
yeah.
Of shadow work. We tend to pretend logically that what things that we were happen as children, oh, it's understandable. Okay, that's fine. But in the child part of us didn't think at that moment, in in her life, his life, that it was fine. We try to come at it, especially when you're doing inner child work and looking at those shadows, we come at it as an adult logical mind. And we
We
try
try
to
to justify. Yeah. We try
justify.
to, yep.
There you go. So I wanted to bring that up because this is something that a lot of people don't take in consideration when they're doing their shadow work. And this is why it's important to be able to be with someone. I'm not saying it's a must, because you could do it on your own, but be able to be with somebody that we could actually spot it when you're doing it.
Right.
Right. And one of the things that happens when you're doing your shadow work, and if you're doing it with someone, listen with your heart. Because what we do, and I know that because I do mentor people, I know one of the things that happen with me with mentoring is that, no, that's not me. It's hard to admit what is happening in your life because it's very uncomfortable and hard to see that part of you. You don't want to see it. That is why it's a shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So I do highly recommend her services. And I'm sure that there's other people around that could actually have gone through the shadow work process or is going through it that could help you. I'm just going to give you one more thing about that. Because I was a Course in Miracles student, it says that this place isn't real, that this world isn't real, that this is just a dream. And even though I do believe that what we experience, our emotional body is experiencing, and we need to acknowledge it and not pretend it isn't real. So and shadow came up for me, and I was at a coffee shop, and I was feeling the emotions of it. And I said, I have two options. I could pretend it's not happening and stay in the coffee shop because I have a meeting with someone, or I could get the fuck out of here and really deal with this. So I got my stuff and I got into my car, and I started noticing that I was saying to myself, this is a dream. And I said, no, stop. I started breathing. Allowing the energy to come up, allowing the emotion to come up. And all of a sudden, as I am sitting in traffic, I start screaming. Something that came out of me from God knows when, God knows where. And it was a scream of murder. It was that intense. That's energy coming out of you. I started throwing up right after, and I couldn't stop crying. Now, that is an intense shadow that needed to be acknowledged, that emotion that happened. Now, when you're doing shadow work, you have to be okay ugly crying, letting it all out, throwing up. There have been moments when I do shadow work that I need to go actually do number 2. You get all of these things happening to you, physically, emotionally, and you have to allow it. And after I was done and I felt the energy subsiding, I touched myself and I said, you're beautiful. Thank you for letting it go. I love you. Thank you. And I started hugging myself, and I started touching myself like this and massaging my back, massaging my neck. And I said, thank you. Thank you for letting it go. I love you. I'm here for you. That was intense, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That is the sort of stuff that we walk through. If we have any sort of image thing where it's like, I can't be like that in public, then you're going to suppress that, and it's going to come back somewhere else. But when you're doing shadow work, you need to be okay with getting ugly, dirty. And that's how energy comes up. That's the energy that needs to be released. So I definitely highly recommend, if you're going to be with someone, be comfortable with them,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to be comfortable being ugly with them, whatever that means.
Right. And I mean, everybody experiences it in a different way,
Right. Right.
and I think that's important too. And
Mhm.
um, the thing is that when you deny a shadow, you're denying a part of who you are,
Right.
because we're light, we're dark, we're all the things, good,
Mhm.
bad, and the ugly, and the
Mhm.
beautiful, right?
Mhm.
And we can't splice ourselves up and say, well, my ego. So one of the things that I understood, and it was really profound for me, was when I understood that I'm not my ego and my thoughts, I'm separate from that. My
Right.
ego has one job, and it's just trying to keep me safe,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
But if I get mad at my ego or cuss my ego out, then I'm denying a part of myself. I'm judging, criticizing a part of who I am. And
Mhm.
that's not beneficial in your process of shadow work. You want
Mhm.
to be able to embrace all the things about you and love all the things about you.
Mhm.
And that's what shadow work can do for you. It helps give you clarity in that process.
Mhm.
So if you start out with somebody helping you or guiding you through shadow work, you're going to get the tools as you go through that process to be able to
Mhm.
do it on your own. So you're going to be able to
Right.
know what questions to ask yourself. You're going to be able to not see where you're bypassing yourself. You're going to be able to have somebody hold space for you. And one of
Right.
the other things that I personally think is super important when it comes to shadow work, these shadows are energy, right?
Mhm.
They're within our body. They can affect us physically through
Yeah.
disease, through pain, all of those things. And a really good way to get it out would be, well, I always recommend journaling for sure.
Right.
Um, get words on paper, but then speak those words. Speak those words to an individual. And that's why one-on-one can be super helpful, because you're
Mhm.
actually being able to speak it, bring it to
Right.
life, bring
Right.
it right to your face,
Mhm.
and then you can share it as well. So if you look around and talk, a lot of people that have had trauma before, they go on stage and they share their story, and every single time they share their story, they're literally doing parts of shadow work.
Yes.
It's beneficial and helpful and healing for people to speak their truth and speak what happened to them, and
Yeah.
however they want to do that and show up.
Right.
So
Right.
that also is important. So there's when you first start out, there seems to be overwhelming.
Mhm.
You actually may have some fear as to, well, what's shadow work going to look like for me? Is it going to really be bad?
Right. 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 It's different for everyone. You're absolutely right.
Right. It gets
Mhm.
better as you learn the process and as you practice it with anything. The more you practice, the better you get, the
Yeah.
easier it is. So
Mhm.
shadow work is actually very simple, but when you start out, it feels very overwhelming, and it feels like you can't get through it.
Mhm.
That's the ego not wanting to die,
Right.
and that is your humanness wanting to not acknowledge those things,
Yes.
right? So it feels that we make it difficult for ourselves. We put those barriers in front of us.
Right.
And so I think that's why it's important to have somebody that you resonate with that can help you through that.
I
And
agree
that's,
completely.
yeah, yeah. But I will say that my biggest focus is, like I said at the beginning, is making sure that I'm a conduit for the energies to work through you, so you
Right.
understand where your power is, so you can help
Yes.
yourself. You can heal yourself.
Yes.
You don't want to be dependent on any
No.
than a healer, a spiritual person. You
Yes.
need to be able to know and understand. Like, and I don't want to, like you mentioned, like you have 4 people. It doesn't mean that you're dependent on them.
No, no, not at all.
Yeah, you resonate with them and you like to
Yeah.
work with them,
Right.
and as do I.
Yeah.
You know.
So when I say that I have 4 people, it's also want to make note that I also said that your guidance system is super important. For example, today, I was I was at a session with someone, and then all of a sudden one of the people that I work with energy came up,
And I asked myself, is it time for another session? And it's been months since I've had anybody work on my energy. And they said, it's time for another session, but this one's going to be different. And I said, okay, that's when you start learning to connect with yourself, learning to know who you are, learning to understand what it is that your soul, your body, we have, 4 bodies. I mean, it's an intense journey that you'll figure it out. And I don't want to overwhelm you, but it's definitely learning what it's in here and what is true and what is not.
And that's how and that's where I call it 101. But it is understanding how to connect with yourself, understanding how to care for yourself, and what does self-care, and I don't even like to use the word self-care. I like more of hygiene. So there's different parts of hygiene, and that's
Right.
one of the things that I go through is like, what does hygiene look like for you? What does self-care look like for you? What are additional things that you can do that might not feel like self-care, because it's more than physical self-care.
Oh yeah,
There's
definitely.
so many other parts to that. And as women, we're taught to only care about other people before we care about ourselves. And what I like to encourage is, it's kind of like the whole, if you don't put your oxygen mask on first before you help somebody else, it's that same concept, which I don't understand why it doesn't, like, transfer to women when it comes to families and children and all of that. We're told that we have to do all the things.
Right.
And we're not taught, or it's not, I shouldn't say taught, it's like society says it's not okay for us to think of ourselves first, otherwise we're selfish.
Yep.
That's usually the message that we get in society, is that you're being selfish. And you need to be able to learn how to listen to yourself and how to take care of yourself and how to find yourself,
Right.
and your truth, and speak your truth, in order so you can be there 110% for those that you love.
Yes.
To be able to do the things that you desire to do, because when I talk about doing all the things, there's a lot in all the things that we really don't want to do.
Yeah, you have to ask those questions of, what do I feel like I have to do, and what do I feel like I want to do? And yeah, definitely.
And it should all eventually be everything I want to do,
there
instead
you
of
go.
and have to do, because that's where your desires come in, right? And yeah, definitely. It's definitely a process. And yeah, it kind of feels like, as we're talking, it feels like it can be overwhelming and there's so much to know, but it really is our minds just saying, oh my God, this is going to be too hard. I might as well not do it. It's actually, if you take the steps, you learn who you are, you learn what resonates with you, you do those things, you take action.
Right.
And you can take baby steps, you can take leaps and bounds, whatever it is that feels good to you, as long as you're moving forward.
Yes. And that's the key, is every day I take a step, even though some of the steps may look like I'm just going to stay in bed for now. That's a step.
And that's okay. And let's do not judge ourselves for taking naps all day long or watching Netflix all day long. Like, we should not judge ourselves for that, because we're not also taught to what downtime looks like.
Right.
And I can tell you, one of the things that I struggle with, and I still have to talk myself through it, when I'm at rest, I feel like I should be doing something. I feel like I have to be busy. Otherwise I'm not productive, because I have this thing where I come from a family, a beautiful family, and they have an amazing work ethic, and they work,
super successful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and that's hard, because you have to kind of unlearn or unravel that for yourself.
Yeah.
And understand that it's okay to do nothing, because part of doing nothing is listening to yourself to figure out who the hell you are.
Yes.
And what your truth is, and what your desires are.
Yeah.
And what your dreams are.
Yes.
And journaling can help with that. You talk about, that whole process. If you journal, on a regular basis, in 6 months, you can go back and read your journals. And I
Yeah.
always encourage people to, and it doesn't matter if you journal once a week or
Yeah.
every 3 days or once a
Hmm.
month. That doesn't matter. Like, when you're not like required to journal every day, you do what
Right.
resonates with you. But if you
Yeah.
do journal in any way, shape, or form,
Hmm.
you can go back in that year and read your journal entries, and
Hmm.
then you have this huge picture of like how much you've actually progressed in
Yeah.
your journey and in your growth, and what you know now versus what you knew last year.
And it's okay to be like, oh man, I love you. Thank you for not letting go, not for not quitting. You know, that's another thing that I've learned. It's just like, I love you, man. I love you. I love you, man.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
learn to be in love with yourself.
yes.
In love with your
It's
soul and in love with your body as you are, not when you lose
yes.
20 pounds, not when you get your
Yes.
hair highlighted, just
Yes.
who you are right now. Love yourself.
One of the things that my guides told me is this: court yourself.
Yes. What does that
It's
look
like,
like to you? Right?
exactly. Court yourself, because you're you were so busy wanting other people to love you. How are you going to fall madly in love with yourself? I can't wait for that. And I've been courting myself. I'm getting to know myself. Just like when we had our first meeting, Lynda, for me, it takes me a while to connect. It takes me a while to open up. So even that with myself, I'm getting to connect with myself and know myself. It takes me a while. I can't rush it. I just need to be like present. It's like, oh, I kind of love you. You have to get to that point where it's like, I want you to court yourself. I want you to marry yourself. And then you're okay with like, what's going on over there? Who are we going to fall in love with? But I mean, that is just have something that I've been learning to do for myself.
Right. And when you find yourself in love with yourself, maybe looking in the mirror a lot and just
Mhm.
really just kind of like loving the body, the skin that you're in, there's
Yeah.
going to be times you're going to be like, what the hell am I doing? This is stupid. Like, you know, you're going to feel there's some awkwardness to it, right? You're like, am I
Yeah.
going to just sit here and stare at myself in the mirror all freaking day? Or
Yeah.
no, like, you have to understand that that's part of learning. Because, well, I should say relearning to
Mhm.
love yourself.
Yes.
Because we're not giving those tools
Yes.
to, in
Oh,
order to,
it's,
for it to be okay, you
yeah.
know?
It's such a beautiful journey to fall in love with yourself. It's like you learn to not judge yourself. That alone is big. And that's an ongoing thing because it's a program that has been a part of our society for so long as females, right? We're supposed to look a certain way. We're supposed to be a certain way. We can't be sluts. F that. If you want to be a slut, be a freaking slut. Like, if whatever
Yeah.
that means to you, like, do it. Empower yourself to be who you are, and that's okay. But before we continue through this, I really want you to touch a little bit on your. I'm gonna say priestess because that's what comes to my heart
Oh,
when I think of it. I really want to talk about sacred relationship and sacred marriage. And it's interesting that that is coming up in your life because it's now coming up in my life where I'm learning to be sacred sexual, like be with my partner in a deeper way, that because I ran away from connecting with others, I'm learning it from the beginning. Like, they're touching it, I'm feeling it, and I'm just like, okay, this is where I'm going to go next. This is where I'm being guided next. So tell me a little bit about marriages, renewing vows, and all that good stuff, because I loved it.
so yeah, so I probably would identify as a priestess, but in the human world, I would call myself, it's called your mystic minister.
Okay.
And so I am licensed to marry people in not all the states, but most states.
Mm-hmm.
And I can renew anybody's vows anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it came about, and I actually, it had been coming to me for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I kept noticing and being aware of is we have some generations that are coming up that don't necessarily believe in religion or the tradition of marriage in the way that we know it in our
Right.
world, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And many people are doing different things, and they're taking different avenues and creating traditions of their own, not of prior generations.
Right.
And so a lot of times churches won't even marry you outside of
Mm-hmm.
the actual walls of the church.
Mm-hmm.
But in what I provide is whatever it is that you feel you want,
Yeah.
I'm going to incorporate that. I also call upon the couple's guides, individual
Mm-hmm.
guides.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, I'm always a conduit. So what is coming to me is for the two, like in your case, the two of you,
Right.
for you and Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Your guide showed up and they told me what you needed.
Right.
And that was what I was guided to do. So everything that was provided was from them. And
Right.
they know you intimately in that
Mm-hmm.
way, and
Mm-hmm.
they see both of you and they see your
Mm-hmm.
hearts individually.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how they can provide that for you and know exactly what you need at that time. And it was, and I thank you for that, because I felt so honored to be a part of that process with both of you,
Mm-hmm.
and to be, because that was a very intimate moment and situation that I
Right.
was allowed to be a part of.
Yeah.
So I would say, every individual couple gets whatever it is that they desire, that they want. And if they
Mm-hmm.
don't know what they want exactly, I can
Right.
definitely help in that situation too, because I'm going to tap into your guides and they're going to let me know.
Yeah.
So let me kind of give a little bit of a rundown of what, if it's okay with you, what
Yeah.
your
Please.
ceremony
Please
was
go
like.
ahead. Yeah. Definitely.
So I did chakra cleansings for both of you.
Mm-hmm.
I did energy clearings for both of you. We did candle magic. So my
Mm-hmm.
candle magic consists of intuitively having words come to me, and these particular words are things that you each need to work on, or we need to work
Mm-hmm.
on together, whatever spirit wants to
Mm-hmm.
give me. And
Mm-hmm.
I inscribe the candle with those words. And
Mm-hmm.
then I intuitively choose essential oils or herbs to dress the candle.
Mm-hmm.
And then on your end, if we're doing it remotely, you are asked to bring candles as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can actually participate in that situation.
Yeah. And I have to tell you that that was very helpful, because nowadays it's, if there's COVID or whatever, being able to do it remotely was very helpful, because my husband's in New York and I'm here in Maryland, and we renewed our vows remotely, well, all three of us being remotely, and it was beautiful and the energy was amazing. And you could definitely create an event, a remote event on, whatever system you want to use, software, but you can even invite family members to your ceremony.
Mhm.
I think it's beautiful for sure.
Yeah. And so we ended up doing, I was guided for you to both speak your vows from your heart
Mm-hmm.
at that moment. So whatever came up is what you need to talk about. But
Mm-hmm.
also with the chakra clearing, I was able to tap into the things that each of you had prevalent
Mm-hmm.
for either to work on or that you had to strengthen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so then you were both able to look at the things that maybe you need to work on individually in order to come together more as a couple.
Yeah.
As well. And I'm trying to think of what else. I don't have the itinerary in front of me about what else we did. Yeah, I can't think of what else we ended up doing. And the thing is that it's, like I said, it's different for everybody.
it was also, the conclusion was a meditation that was very beautiful and helpful.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Thank you for the reminder. I need
Yeah.
those sometimes. I actually brought you to the Akashic records.
It did.
And I remember actually, and I'm going to shout out to Garrett again, because I was guided to do that, and
Mhm.
I messaged him, and I'm like, listen, like, I'm not certified in Akashic records, but this is what the guides are telling me. Like, oh my gosh, should I even be doing this? And he just was like,
Right.
listen, you don't need a certification. Like,
I
yeah,
love
like
him.
you need to,
God,
yeah,
I
I
love
know.
that man.
You need to trust yourself and know that the guides want you to go there. So you know enough to go there and to do
Yeah.
that. And so then I
Yeah.
felt really confident in knowing that this is what I needed to do. So yeah, we had a
Yeah.
beautiful session where I guided you through towards my healing grid, towards the Akashic
Mhm.
record library,
Mhm.
and for you to have your own experiences there. And so you got your own messages, and you
Yes.
got your own individual visualization of what your Akashic records look like
Yes.
for each of you.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that, I believe that was very helpful for both of you to
It
know those
was.
things about yourself.
Oh,
So
heck yes, it was.
yes,
It was
yeah.
interesting. It was, everything about it was interesting. It was beautiful. It's been very helpful. It was a clearing. As one of the things that you asked us to do, it's to purge, to burn away anything that you know you don't want to carry in the future. And that was very helpful, to have a clearing ceremony, or what house would you call it?
A
Cord
release.
cutting.
It was, yeah, well, we did a cord cutting. So we did the
Yeah.
release of all the things, and then we
Right.
did a cord cutting. So a
Yes.
lot of people don't realize that cord cutting, you're not cutting yourself off from somebody,
No.
but you're releasing a lot of the energies that kind of attach you to
Mhm.
each other. And it's just a way of releasing and letting go. The other thing I did was I took bay leaves, wrote your names on the bay leaves, and
Mhm.
I burned those on my end,
Yes.
um, as well.
Yes.
So yeah,
No,
there was a lot of fun things that we did.
yeah, it was a lot. It was beautiful. It was magical. I after my meditation, I came into during my meditation, I was going into the Akashic records. There were Egyptian um, men with heads of animals going into the underworld, and I coming out riding a unicorn. That's what happens. I mean, it was
Anything
beautiful.
goes.
Anything
Yeah.
goes. So I highly recommend that if you are with a partner, and whatever gender or race, I'm sure that
Oh
you're
yeah,
open, honeys, because yeah, we're open.
absolutely.
whatever part, with your partner, if you don't want to do the traditional way, because I seriously think that in the future, marriage is not even going to be a thing anymore. We're two individual people choosing to love one another without codependencies. I think that's going to be our future. But we're going to be with each other through this magical school of earth, to learn together, to be supportive of one another with no expectations, just to be partners and choose to love one another, committed to our spiritual growth, committed to whatever our relationship evolves in the future. But right now, this is what we're doing. And I think when I first reached out to you, I'm like, could you do this for us? I'm like, I want us to come up with a ceremony that because this is how Maria thinks. If I come back in a future life and he's with me, I don't want him to have a distraction or an attachment to me, because I don't want that. I don't want a contract like that. I want it to be in this life, in this moment of where we are in the dream, or whatever, however you want to call it in school. I want to be with you, but I don't want something that is going to create a barrier in the, if, if we come back to earth or whatever, where it's going to hinder us. And I was just like, it has to be super multi-dimensional, and I'm just like, I need you because it's like, I know you could do this, girlfriend. And
right.
this is how,
and having it happen in the Lionsgate, the fact that you were married on Lionsgate,
yeah,
and that we actually were able to do this within, it was magical, it was cosmic, it
oh
was
yeah,
mystical. I mean, it was
Mhm.
just such a beautiful process, and I was
Yeah,
just so happy to be a part of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you're looking for something unique, meaningful, I would recommend Lynda to, am I using the right word, initiate
uh
your ceremony, or how would you call it? What would you call it?
I would either call it a marriage ceremony or renewing
Yeah.
wedding vows.
Even if it's just, it could be as simple as just you and your partner and Lynda, like we had, to inviting the whole freaking world to participate and attend and be a part of your journey. I definitely recommend it. But it's been an amazing roller coaster today. I hope that you guys pick something up, even if it's just something that is said. The intention for this interview, it's not only to promote Lynda and myself, but it's also to promote love,
And healing.
promote and healing, promote that we could, if we could only love ourselves.
Right. And I have something to say about that. I think I posted this the other day on Facebook,
Sure.
and it was something that came to me in a meditation. And let me see if I can get it right. Forgive yourself for not loving yourself the way you expect other people to love you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it was so loud.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important that no matter where we are, where we've been, right now, forgive yourself and understand that you are responsible for loving you, and no one else is responsible for loving you the way you need to be loved. And once you take that responsibility, you'll be amazed at how much things change, especially in your relationships with everybody.
Yes.
When you take on the responsibility to make yourself happy and to love
Yes.
yourself first.
Oh,
in that way.
I love it. You're speaking
Yep.
my language, girlfriend. Yes. It's
And
important.
it's a process.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
it's not a destination, right? It's a
Right.
process.
Yep.
And so you just have to keep going, keep moving forward.
It is important to know
Like
that.
Ram Dass says, we're all,
Yeah.
oh, we're
No, that's
over
okay.
each
Go
other,
ahead.
because you were kind of delayed there
Yeah,
for a
I
second.
don't know.
No, I was just going to mention again Ram Dass and how he said we're all just walking each other home. I think that was so profound, and so accurate. No matter what, good, bad, and the ugly, we're walking each other home. We're here for each other because we're all connected. We're all energetically connected. So you hate your brother or you hate your sister out there, then you're actually, hating a part of who you are.
There you go.
You're a part of them.
Yes.
And that's a process. It's hard to, it's not something, it's a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I want to put it. It's just a work in progress of learning to love people. And that doesn't mean that you bypass yourself or you don't have boundaries or you let things slide by. It means that you find grace for others.
Yes.
Within your differences, you find grace.
Yes.
And there you'll find the way to love them.
Yes. Very good. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for joining us on this amazing day of healing. If you have any questions, I will be linking Lynda's schedule onto the podcast.
Lynda, if you could send that to me. If you want to just send whatever you want me to post for you, so people can know how to contact you. And I also will be posting Garrett's information if you're drawn to him. I think that Garrett has helped us quite a bit, and I think he's gonna be the next one on my list to ask him to speak.
Right. So, and I want to mention for him too that I know he just posted something to be get a Kundalini, like Reiki practitioner. And that's coming up for him, that he's going to be offering that. And then the other thing that I know, because I asked him, I'm going to get certified in Akashic Records through Garrett. Like, I totally was guided to do it with him. And so that's coming up as well eventually in the next month or two. I feel like he said October, but at least it's the next couple of months that you can do that with Garrett as well. And I would highly recommend working with Garrett as well. So he did an Akashic record reading for me, and it was amazing, and it was so on point and gave me so much confirmation and clarity as to like where I'm going with the things that I'm passionate about. So definitely recommend Garrett.
Yeah, Garrett does a little bit of everything. We're like his cheerleaders, but it is what it is. Yes. He also does ancestry clearings, alchemy, helping you really understand the energy that you hold within your DNA about your ancestors, right? So that's all important. Everything, all of the work that Lynda does, that I do, and that Garrett does, kind of goes hand in hand. Definitely know yourself enough to know who is drawing you in. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. We love you guys, and we just want to walk you home. Thanks for being with us, Lynda. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.